Tonight is going to be called The Journey. When I think of a journey, I think about going from one point to the next. I think about starting at point A to go to point B. A perfect analogy would be a GPS system. Your destination is where you're headed, and your starting point is where you are. Everything in between is called the journey. If you're going to, say if you're going to go to New York, you may stop for gas, or you may stop for something to eat, and that's all part of your journey. My journey begins in Buffalo, New York, in the summer of 1983. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Buffalo, but we get snow during the summer. No, I'm joking, but it snows a lot. It snows a lot. Nothing like what we've seen down here, though, but it snowed in April. And it's a small city. It's about, depending on what part of the city you're in, about 15 to 20 minutes from Toronto. I grew up the oldest of 8. My father, when he was 3, he went to the military. When I was 3, he went to the military, and then my mother, she remarried, had another son. His father passed away, and then she remarried again and had another 3. And in the time span from about 13 years, I didn't have any communication with my father, and he had a son and a daughter. So pretty much I only grew up around 4 of my siblings. Growing up, I had to take on early responsibilities as far as cleaning, cooking, and taking care of my younger brothers and sisters. I believe that in life, God brings us certain people into our lives for a particular reason. There may be a person that you don't want or you don't like, but God has that person there for a reason, and then there's other people that are there to influence you. I remember my 2nd grade teacher, her name was Miss Ransom. She was always encouraging me, always pushing me to move forward. Whenever I would have struggles in school and whatnot, she would call my mother would come in and they would dialogue. And that stuck with me, because when you see that, you see somebody who's really concerned about you and where you're headed. Fast forward, junior high, I had another teacher named Mr. Bradley. I remember him more so because of the way he called my name. He said Mr. Rivers, and he said it like 3 or 4 times. And I'll be sitting there staring at him, he'll still be calling my name. But he was another person that was encouraging me to move forward, and as far as academic-wise and as far as where I needed to go. One thing that I realized growing up is that the people who influence you the most are the ones you remember. I can't tell you who won the last 5 World Series, or who has the most Grammy nominations, or who has the most Golden Globe awards, but I can tell you who called me up to cheer me on for a big project. I can tell you about somebody who supported my ideas, somebody who saw my potential before I could. For growing up, we moved around a lot. For a span of about 10 to 12 years, we moved about 6 or 7 times, and I had the opportunity to make a lot of friends. Each location we went to, it was opportunity to build relationships. And I remember one of the streets I moved on, I got my nickname Chuck, and I still remember those people, because those are people that are in your life that made the impact. Fast forward, I graduated from high school in 2001. Went to a small high school. The 2nd floor was only 1 hallway, and I used to get talked about a lot with my friends because their schools were like 4 or 5 floors, and our school didn't have a basketball team, so we were like one of the smallest schools in the city. In 2003, I experienced something that I never thought I would experience at that time. Was my grandmother passed away. She was like the cornerstone of the family. My grandparents, my grandfather was a pastor, and so she was the one who held family together, and that hurt. Even today I still think about, because at one point she went to the hospital, and then we had, she's going to be coming out the next day, and then you get that call that she passed away, and that took a while for me to get over. But one of the things that I appreciated about her was that on her deathbed, she asked me to promise that I would go back to school. Because when I first graduated high school, I was going to junior college, working 2 jobs, and it wasn't really working out, so I kind of dropped out of school and kept working. And so I told her, yes, Grandma, and I'll promise you that I'll go back to school. It took me 3 years, but in '06, I moved down here from Buffalo, currently going to Morgan with a degree in marketing. It was a culture shock for me moving down here. Buffalo is more of a diverse city, and when I moved down here, it's like I've experienced a different African American culture than what's in Buffalo. Fast forward to what's going on now recently, going to church. I've recently started a blog on leadership and also run a home-based business. And also, recently the kids at my church were trying to start a basketball team for the summer, and every weekend they keep traveling. They're really excited about it. So I'm looking forward to that. Throughout everything that has brought me forth to be standing before you today is the fact that growing up I had the opportunity to know of Christ. Although I didn't know him as I do today, but I knew he was. As I mentioned, my grandfather pastored a church in Toronto, Canada, and countless summers we were up there with my grandparents, and we were at church every Saturday. Hearing the prayers, seeing my grandfather preach and the love of my grandmother, it never occurred to me that the seeds were being planted. It reminds me of the scripture that says, train up a child in the way he should go, and he will not depart. For a period of time I started going to clubs and doing all the things that I know I shouldn't have been doing. I know God had a bigger calling for my life. Whenever a decision is made in our lives, and it's a firm one, God will begin to shift things into place to help it bring it to pass. Joining Toastmasters is one of those things that God had put me in place for me to be able to go where he needs me to go.